Understanding the timelessness of conscious space. The timelessness of conscious space is difficult for many people to grasp, so this section will present a point of view that should make this more understandable. We have a built-in preconception of what time is. We instinctively believe that there is some separate phenomenon in physics that we call time. We believe that this time phenomenon is continuously running and always has been running in the background of everything that happens in the universe. But this is a mistaken belief and has been disproved by modern theories of physics and especially by special relativity and by quantum field theory. These theories have shown that time is nothing more than relative relationships between objects and processes. There is no absolute time even in physical space. The time that we use is not absolute time, but rather it is always relative to some reference physical process. References are things like the number of rotations of the hand on a mechanical stopwatch, the number of rotations of the Earth on its axis, or the number of oscillations of a cesium atomic clock. Each of these references will have their own accuracy specifications, with the cesium atomic clock being the most accurate. There are new optical clocks coming online that are supposedly more accurate than the cesium atomic clock, but I will stick with the decades tried and true cesium atomic clock for this discussion. Logically, science has used the cesium atomic clock as the reference for all other references. But the cesium clock is just a physical process, so we have all the other references being relative processes to the cesium atomic clock process. The upshot of all this is that science does not use or know how to measure any kind of absolute time phenomenon. It is always the relative behavior of physical processes. This is the key to understanding that there is actually no such thing as an absolute time in science or in the universe. Science has discovered that time as we think of it does not exist. The relative time between physical processes is completely local to the physical processes themselves. So we can say that before the Big Bang, when there was supposedly no matter and no energy, and maybe therefore no quantum fields, and no space, that there could not be any kind of relative time that was even possible. Therefore, there was no infinite past, no million-year past, and not even a 1-second past before the Big Bang. We actually should not even call the relationship between physical processes relative time. It is just a relationship of the relative numbers that are counted by the references. A disappointing thing about the non-existence of time is that there is no possibility of time travel because there is nothing to go back in and nothing to go forward in. Now let's consider time from a special relativity point of view. First of all, time is not the fourth dimension of space in spite of what the Science Snake Oil book writers say. Time plus the 3 dimensions of space form a mathematical 4-dimensional manifold. Time is always given the index 0, and the 3 indexes of space are given as 1, 2, and 3. If time was considered to be the 4th dimension, it would have been given an index of 4 when they first formulated the equations. Time is simply a parameter that describes a particular behavior of physical matter. One of the most important results of special relativity is that time slows down in a moving frame. Even cesium atomic clocks slow down. So, a cesium clock on board the space station will run slower than a cesium atomic clock on the ground because of the speed difference. We will ignore the effect of faster time farther from the surface because of time dilation. We are only interested in the effect of the speed difference. The knee-jerk reaction to this is to say time has slowed down. But all we know is that the cesium atomic clock on the station will register a smaller number of oscillations than the same atomic clock on the ground. But this only means that the cesium atomic oscillations are slowed, and it says nothing about what some time concept is actually doing. It is the relationship between the number of oscillations on the station with the number of oscillations on the ground that is important. Relativity specifies that when objects move faster and faster, their effective masses get larger and larger. It is easy to speculate that the extra mass is what makes the oscillation of a cesium clock become more sluggish and slow down. There is no time concept slowing things down, but rather, the physical process itself is slowing down. Thoughts like these have forced scientists to realize that there is no absolute time clock driving the universe. If there was, then it would be impossible for time to slow down on the station and not on the ground. They realized that time was not an independently real phenomenon that exists in the universe. Time is always the result of relationships between different physical processes. Without physical processes, time does not even make any sense. We can conclude that conscious space is timeless since it does not contain any physical processes.